Hey, what's up, guys? I'm going to be bringing you through your first couple of minutes with the T-RackS Black 76. This is based off the 1176 limiting, peak limiter, I guess it would be called. Not limiting amplifier, but I guess it can act as an amplifier, which we'll get into later. I believe this is revision C by its characteristic black face, and this came out in 1970. Yeah, 1970. So, what this is basically this sound of, the last, I guess, 40 years. It's used extensively, and it has quite a sound. So the first thing you'll notice is there's an input and an output, but there's no threshold. There's only ratio and attack and release. And what is up with that attack and release? So what you have to know is the threshold is dependent on the ratio. And you have to remember that 8 and 4 is like a compressor, typical kind of compressor, and the higher up you go, the more the threshold kind of raises. So 12 and 20 is kind of limiting, and 4 and 8 is a bit of compression. We'll set it to 8, so we have an imaginary threshold. The thing about this compressor is, for me anyway, I'm sure there's a lot of 1176 scholars out there that are going to scream at me, but it's very unpredictable, and it kind of has a life of its own, simply because it's kind of a backwards way of working, because the attack and release, the knobs are kind of reversed, and when you increase the input, you have to decrease the output, so it's kind of counterclockwise. You have to compensate to get like a balance of what you're doing. So we'll start with kind of a percussion-y loop, and we'll give it a go. So yeah, I have the input all the way down, well, not all the way down, but down enough, and the output, so it's kind of a balance. So when I turn it on and I bypass it, we kind of have a calibration. There's still some compression, but it's before we're cooking, so to speak. So how do you get more compression? Well, you increase the input and decrease the output. So yeah, it's kind of like a tape plug-in. So, if you increase the record volume, you have to decrease the output, and that's how you get that kind of warm saturation. This input right here has a lot of saturation, and it's how the sound of the 70s has that sound, basically. So we're having lots of compression. So one thing you have to notice is the attack. This is all the way to the right. Would be a fast attack. I think it's like 200 microseconds, or 200. 20 microseconds, I believe, or 200. Oh, I should have done research. See, the 1176 guys are yelling at me right now. And all the way to the right is 800. I know that. So a lot of those transients will poke through. Good on drums. This is used for like rock, but for dance music and stuff, you really add a lot of character, especially if you use these in parallel. If you use a bit of New York compression, it sounds quite good. And the release obviously is adjustable. Super fast release as 50 milliseconds, and all the way to the left is 1,000 milliseconds. So we have a long release. See, look how long that is. Long release is long. So yeah, we'll just boost up the ratio because we're crazy. All right, so we're really aggravating the sound right now. And that's basically how you go about it. There's another option, is the British mode, and it's when you have all selected and you get a lot of crunch. And this was, it's like an all-in mode. You got quite a bit of heavy compression. The attack and release is also affected by the input. So it's kind of dependent on the audio coming in. It's very adaptive. It's very unique and weird to use. Right, so for, this kind of dance music, you add a lot of color and a lot is going on. So especially if you kind of use it in parallel with something else, it sounds quite nice. So another thing I want to show you is a way for you to use you can totally bypass the compressor, the gain reduction side of it. So you're basically turning it into an amplifier. So the input will act as an amplifier, and it goes up to 11. So you're totally bypassing the gain reduction, you're bypassing everything. So you kind of have to compensate between the two knobs here. So you can really add some life to sounds. Right. Same overall volume, lots of harmonic content. So I'm going to quickly reset. Find a nice kind of balance. Go way below the threshold, where I assume it is. We got a bit of compression there, but I want to breathe a bit. So we are going to be using mid-side mode. So this is what the original did not have, as far as I know. And what it is, well, it obviously had left and right, because back in the day, these were not stereo, they're mono, so you'd have to get two. Imagine that. Just kind of like the distressor, you need two, which is weird. They should make a stereo distressor unit, so guys like me don't have to buy two. Anyway, yes, there's left and right, so you can balance and do odd things in the stereo field, very Beatles. But then there's mid-side, and it didn't originally have mid-side. So what I suggest you use, I suggest you get a calibration method to make, when the compressor is on and off, it basically sounds more or less the same. But we want it to be beefed up a bit, so we'll go mid-side. And there's mid, which is the mono material, and then side, which is the stereo material. So if your stereo material is kind of all over the place, what you can do is go to stereo mode, and you can mono it, or you can really adjust the dynamics. And this is, adjusted independently. If you want the stereo material to be very compressed, super duper compressed. So you get that feeling of compression, but it's only compressing the side material. So things aren't necessarily, let's see how this sounds. Oh, I might want to loop that. So you're getting that feeling of compression, but it's not affecting the mid. So it's not like totally crunching everything. It's only crunching the side material, which gives a nice effect, and that's something the original didn't have. Right? So, how's that sound? you have a lot more groove, and this is very dependent on the audio coming in and very dependent on the ratio, and it's a beast to tame. And I assume it takes decades for you to really grasp and know, through instinct how this works, or how to use it the right way every time. It takes a lot of experimentation, and it's a different way of working. So think of it as a living compressor with distortion. So think of it like that. All right, I've been talking for 10 minutes. Hope you learned stuff, and have a good one.